When we take a closer look, you can see that I have various fish in my tank. They're not all very common fish. It's because I like to have some species in there that are somewhat harder to keep or less seen in reef tanks. One example is the boxfish, which is swimming somewhere to the top left. I'll follow it for a while. It's an addition that I bought in December last year, so it has been in my tank for around 6 months now. As you can see, it's floating around really nicely. It handles the flow quite well. I was surprised at first, at least I was a bit worried. When I bought it, it was about half this size, so it has grown quite some bit. That it would not be able to handle the flow of the Maxspect Gyre that I have in my tank. As you can see, that creates quite some flow, but it's in a random pattern which switches back to 10% regularly. So there's a lot of times when the flow is not that bad, not that strong. So the boxfish is really able to manage it quite well. As you can see, the fish are eating from something that's on the glass. It's called mastic. It's a product created by Sea Reefer. I tried it for the first time a few months ago, and I've been using it ever since. Especially since the Avansi Antias, they're also really fond of it. As you can see, they're even eating it from the glass. And when the particles are floating through the tank, they're also picking it out whenever they like. These fish, the Avansis, are a fish that's not very easy to keep. I wouldn't say quite hard either, but they are fish that need to eat regularly. Some people say you have to feed them 2 times, 3 times a day to keep them healthy. I feed 2 times a day on a regular day, actually most of the time. Mice and krill in the evening most of the times, and as you can see, the mastic during the day, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. Right now it's about noon here, so I try to vary it a little bit so they also have some different moments on which they can eat. As you can see in this section, there's also quite some corals. As you might have noticed, my tank consists mainly of soft corals. I really love LPS, zoas, euphyllias, everything that waves around, looks wobbly, tends to grow, tends to extend. I really like that about corals. As where the more stony corals, this SPS kinds, I have some of them, like this Montipora hirsuta, which I am really into. I've fragged it quite some time, and again, because it's a really fast grower. It grows in a really beautiful shape, and it's very easy to keep. Also some chalices. There are some chalices. This is Turbinaria, which I have also had for I think close to 2 years now. It's very solid, but it grows consistently. Hey, there's Mr. Grumpy picking away at some fish while they float around. He's usually behind the rocks or below the turbinaria or below other rocks, so it's quite nice to catch him in this video while he's exercising his grumpiness. There's some other chalices as well. Some of them, like I explained with the turbinaria, are really just very hard stony corals. And then there's some which are a little bit more wobbly, like this bubblegum chalice. I don't know the exact name, but as you can see, there's small bubbles on top of the plate, which I think is an indication that it's having a good time. At least I hope so. Then, as we move along, you'll see that there's the midsection consists mainly of zoas, buttons, whatever you like to call them. I'm really a fan of buttons because they are there's so many different colors that you can get. They are fast growers. You can easily share them with your friends or people that like them. You can buy them. You can sell them. Some go for $10 for a whole rock, and some goes for $10 for just a polyp, or euros in this case, because we're living in the Netherlands, in Europe. Yeah, I really like zoas, so I try to collect as many as possible. Whenever I see a species that I don't have yet, I try to get it. Then somewhat more to the left, there's a clear difference between the top corals, which also are mainly SPS. I'll lower the light a little bit so they show up in a better way. They're not the hardest corals. There are some Montipora, there's some Calliandrum, there's some Stylophora, some Acroporas, which, yeah, it's always tough for me to keep since my system is quite high in its nutrients, which is of course perfect for the large polyp, stony corals, the LPS and the zoas and everything else, the Gonioporas, the Heliofungia. They don't mind, but for the SPS it's a bit tougher on health and color wise. So you can see that sometimes they struggle with the nitrates and the phosphates. Nitrates are about, well, they vary. I think right now they are about 20 to 30. I try to keep them between 10 and 20. 5 is also okay, but not that low, because LPS can appreciate it. And the phosphates are way too high actually at the moment. I think 0.3, 0.2. Well, I would like that to a steady 0.08. But that's a different subject. I'll come back on that later, how I try to keep my nutrients in check. But yeah, that's always the downside when you're deciding whether you want to feed a lot, have happy fish that are healthy and fat and jolly, and then again there's the corals which appreciate somewhat lower nutrients. So yeah, definitely one of the big challenges of keeping a mixed reef with also some nice fish. The last part about corals that we will cover is this bottom section. It's not one of the most nice parts of the reef because it's quite solid, and but the corals there I really like. As you can see, the copperband is also fond of these corals. He's looking at them the whole day. Luckily he's not nipping at them. That's one of the questions I hear a lot. Why is your copperband, why are you able to keep it together with corals? Well, yeah, you have to be lucky enough that it feeds just what you want him to eat and not on the corals. But yeah, mine does that. Luckily, I'll knock on wood, because I've had it for 2.5 years now. It was really small when I bought it, and it has grown out to be one of the biggest fish in the tank, and I really like it. It's one of the main reasons why I like reef tanks so much. It's such a beautiful fish. Its behavior, its colors, it's just magnificent. But back to the corals where we were. There's some Goniopora in here, which of course look really nice when they're nice and wavy and extending. There's some Blastomusa, there's some Acanthostria, there's a Trachyphilia, there's some buttons, but yeah, I really like these colors. The Gonioporas are a bit, I wouldn't say rare, but colors you don't see every day. A bit yellowish green on the back and purplish red on the front, with some, I'll zoom in on this purple one. There used to be some green in there in the heart of the polyp, but that has been gone for a long time. But as long as I see that they're happy, they're wavy, they look healthy, then it's fine by me, because it's even without the green, it's still a very nice species.